First of all, thanks everybody for coming out. We really appreciate it. This is going to be a great conversation here. Really just want to kick things off by getting an introduction from our guests. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, and how about, as a fun icebreaker, what's one exciting thing you're looking forward to doing in Toronto this week?
Thank you guys for coming here, and thank you so much for inviting us. My name is Elena Sinelnikova. I am CEO and co-founder of Metis, and also I'm a co-founder of CryptoChicks with Natalia. This weekend in Toronto, it's a huge weekend for us because it's the ETHToronto, and it's the first time ever in history we have an ETHToronto. So we have been dreaming of it since I think 2016, when first we get to know Tracy and we came up with this, with the idea, let's do it, and then finally, now we've done it, and it's going really well. So that's the plan for this weekend, just to attend the event. And thank you for inviting us here. It's been great week for us as well, because we just announced this week, we announced the Chainlink integration, and we're really happy to Chainlink to join us in the Metis Ecosystem.
Hi guys, thank you for coming. My name is Natalia Ameline. I am a co-founder of CryptoChicks, and I'm also lead of Genesee Investment Fund at Metis. I'm super happy that you showed up. I know it's a lot of fun activities going on back at Rebel, so I'm super grateful that you're here, and looking forward to meeting some of you later.
Thank you very much. So to start off, I think there's a wide range of knowledge amongst the crowd. I'd love to just get a few key concepts explained to kick things off. Maybe to start with yourself, Natalia, could you, from a high level, explain the blockchain trilemma problem, what that is and why that's important?
Interesting question. So blockchain trilemma, I think it's a widely held belief that the modern decentralized network can support only 2 out of 3 properties that describe the blockchain. So when we talk about the blockchain, we think about decentralization. So decentralization, when we talk about decentralization, we refer to the meaningful distribution of consensus and computation across the network. Second main part of it is scalability. And scalability is, of course, the ability of the blockchain to process transactions and transactional throughput and increase it without clogging the blockchain. And we also have the aspect of security, which is also very important. And that's a very important aspect for all of us. We don't want to, put our financial, our money into something that is not secure. So that is the 3 aspects of the blockchain trilemma. And as I was saying earlier, it is believed that only 2 out of 3 can be supported by the modern blockchain, and we're always compromising on a 3rd. So when we think about, for example, Bitcoin or Ethereum, we think that they are, decentralized, they're secure, but maybe not as scalable because the transaction throughput is relatively small, right? We're talking about 12 transactions per second on Ethereum, for example, right? And when we talk the private blockchains, they could be secure, they could be scalable, but they are compromising on decentralization because there is a limited number of nodes that are processing the transactions. I don't know, that's kind of my take on it.
No, that's fantastic. And the follow-up question to that, to yourself, Elena, would be, could you then explain what is the difference between a layer 1 and a layer 2? And how does Metis step in to approach the problems that were mentioned earlier?
Oh, I'm glad that Natalia got the hardest question and I got the easy one. Okay, so layer 1 and layer 2. Layer 1 is, of course, the main blockchain. Like in our case, for example, this is Ethereum. So this is a blockchain that is decentralized, but at the same time, it has some problems such as scalability, and which is result in a low transaction throughput, and the cost of the transactions. Sometimes the transaction fees are really high. Not at the moment, but sometime, in the back in the days, when there was a lot of load onto Ethereum, transactions could be cost like $100, $200. So, and that is, of course, not feasible. So in this case, layer 2s come to the rescue. So layer 2 is the system that builds on top of layer 1, which is in this case Ethereum, and architecture of it. It's not a chain by itself, but it is the system that collects transactions and then commits them to basically saves transactions in the, let's say in case of the optimistic rollup, in a batch as one transaction to the Ethereum. And in this case, it inherits Ethereum security. So because the transaction gets saved onto the layer 1, onto Ethereum, and it does not need any consensus, because this is just, wrapping up the transaction and saving, wrapping up transactions and saving. So there's not much logic into it, and there's no consensus, and therefore the security is inherited. And it's also supposed to have only one honest sequencer. Sequencer is the basically the program that actually submits these transactions to the network. And even if a sequencer is not honest, nothing happens to the transactions, because you cannot save wrong transactions onto the layer 1 anyways. This process just stops if you have a dishonest sequencer. But in this case, nothing happens to the accounts or the security, so no money getting lost. So that's what the layer 2 is. It's basically the layer that inherits the security from the layer 1 and makes transactions faster and cheaper.
Fantastic. And could you then maybe expand on that with what is Metis and what makes it special in the L2 ecosystem?
Yeah, so Metis started, so the idea of Metis is not, just the L2 or infrastructure. So we built this infrastructure because Metis' idea is to build an economy, decentralized economy. So for that, of course, we need this decentralized base layer that is very usable. Ethereum is a good decentralized layer, but unfortunately it's not usable in our case because, again, the low transaction throughput and expensive transactions. So for that, we needed to build our own layer 2 in order to even to base our economy on something. So that's what we did. We started with the optimistic rollup, then we upgraded it to smart L2, how we call it. So it's then when the transaction is not saved all at once or the whole batch, but it actually does it on demand. And so therefore it allowed us to bring the cost of the transactions to just a few cents, a couple of cents on Ethereum, and the transaction throughput is very fast. I cannot tell you the number, I'm sorry. But yes, it's if you try Metis, it's, the transactions are momentarily very, very fast. And based on that, now we are building and we continuously building the system of the DACs. It's decentralized autonomous companies, which allow any person to create business on just with one click of a button and be in an open environment, in an open ecosystem, without even knowing that they are on Ethereum. So this is the idea for Metis, to create this economy of the businesses that are all interconnected with each other. So, and that's what we're building.
Exciting stuff, absolutely. I was listening to a podcast on the way up here, and I heard a story of how you actually got introduced to crypto, Elena. And I believe it was Natalia asked for your help to set up a wallet way back in 2014. So that's a long time ago. I would love to hear 2015? Yeah, 14, 15, still a long time. I would love to hear, and if you could tell the audience, how have you seen this industry grow and develop since that time? What are some key takeaways that you've seen, and then what led you to joining Metis?
Yeah, for sure. So, I was lucky enough to start following the blockchain space from early days. And that was, of course, very special. At some point, we started getting our hands, I guess, wet and using the blockchain itself. But what is the first step, right? The first step is wallet. So I was trying to set up Mist wallet at the time, and my computer just kept spinning and spinning and spinning. I think the wallet sucked, but that's my excuse. But I couldn't figure it out, so I said, hey, I have my fellow computer scientist with 20 years of experience in coding, so why don't I ask her help? And we were trying, eventually have to get help from my son, and it worked out. But
it was the other way around. You first get help from your son, he couldn't help you, and then you help me, and then I helped you. So it's all
right. It's good that he's not. It's good that he's not here, right? So anyway, to get the long story short, eventually it worked out, and we never used the Metis since then. That was my takeaway. Do not use the Mist wallet. In terms of what we've seen in the space since then, obviously it has been a wild ride for everybody, I think, who've been following it from the early days. We saw the first hack, the DAO hack, that I think was very impactful in many ways, and kind of started shaping the culture and shaping the thought processes and communities in the Ethereum space. And, in the beginning, it was just Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? And now we look around, and I think, there's a whole bunch of it's different. It's almost like a sub-blockchain space that was created because people see a problem that the large blockchain has in terms of, the ability to scale and handle the transactions. And as the demand on the network kept growing and growing because more people, more businesses started building on the blockchain, it was more and more obvious that we need to come up with a solution to scale Ethereum. So now we have almost like a subcategory of the space which is focusing on various scaling solutions, right? And so Metis, of course, is one of them, but there are very many, and they all have their individual approaches to this. And I think what we see and what we specifically care about at Metis, and I think I'm talking on behalf of everybody in our team, is the decentralization. I think that's something why this space was created back in the days to start with, because we wanted to have the freedom. We wanted to not depend on centralized parties. We wanted to own our own funds, be our own bank, own our own identities. And I think the people who cared about it, they're still in the space. And that's one of the most important things why we come to work every day at Metis. We really focusing on maintaining decentralization. We're not compromising. And that's, I think, what I think will be even more important in the coming days. When I look around, I read the news. Every day I see that there are some infringement on people's freedoms. You probably all heard about the Tornado Cash decision. And more, I think it becomes prevalent that decentralization is really important in this space. And in the past several days, quite frankly, several years, I think we kind of maybe get a little bit away from that theme and started focusing more on becoming, faster, cheaper. But sometimes, unfortunately, at the expense of decentralization. And I think this is not an acceptable position.
Very inspirational. That was excellent to hear. I'd love to pass it over yourself, Elena, and what kind of insights could you share from your extensive experience in this space?
Yes, I would like to continue with Natalia. And we are a very big fan of decentralization. That's why, I speak for myself, but that's why I got into the space, because when I started reading books about Bitcoin at the moment, it was not Ethereum books back then, and then it started studying Ethereum. That was so amazing that there is systems that were programmed supposedly by humans, but they can work without any human interaction, and that they can self-sustain, self-regulate, and as well provide this open environment for everybody, no matter what status you are, like what status you have in a society, or what country you live in, or how much money you have. So it's completely available. So I consider this kind of like a perfect democracy that right now in the world everybody's fighting for, but it's right there at our, at our fingertips. So this technology already exists. But what the most important insight for me is that decentralization is not for everyone. Decentralization is for people that has this, sense of accountability and responsibility, and that is something that I learned actually this year. So I'm already that much in that long in space since 2015, but yes, only this year it occurred to me that we need to prioritize and prioritize over to the people that has responsibility, accountability. Not everybody happy in a decentralized environment. Start with the private key, for example, right? So like people are, they are losing private keys, and they would rather, offload this responsibility to somebody else to hold these keys. And let's be honest, this is not for them. But when we're building, we need to make sure that we are building for people who actually will be happy, and they will be happy to use it. And that will be so much easier to, to focus on that people. So that is my big insight. And I know probably, I will have lots of opponents and say, oh yeah, no, let's build it for everybody. And I can tell you, it's probably not possible. So let's focus on the right people. So decentralization, it starts with people, not with the technology.
That's a great line right there. Decentralization starts with people, not technology. Thank you for that, Elena. Want to shift gears here and talk about the Metis ecosystem, because we've seen some really amazing stuff happening. Some top dApps are building on Metis. I think Aave, Sushi Swap, Cheetao, to name a few. We just had Chainlink price feeds go live August 3rd, I believe. What is, how is the Metis ecosystem growing, and could you talk a bit about the ecosystem growth plans for the future?
Okay, I will start. Maybe we'll go one after another. So first and foremost, as Elena was saying before, our goal is to be a backbone, building a backbone of the Web3 economy, right? So it's all starts with infrastructure. So continue on my topic of decentralization in the next, 6 months, based on our roadmap, which I'm sure you all read about or will read about if you Google. One of the things that we're focusing on is continuing with enhancement in technology that will help with decentralization. So that's one of the things that I'm looking forward in our roadmap.
Yeah, and that is involved building the whole system of the decentralized sequencers, the fraud proofers. So it's not like, as I said, when the sequencer go down, it's still, layer 2s are still centralized in that sense. But yes, we're building a system where the sequencers is going to be multiple, and they're going to be all decentralized and belong to the community as well. So that is a big part of the roadmap. Also, we are focusing on our building the DACs, so the DACs, how you say, the Decentralized Autonomous Company infrastructure, the tooling for it. And even right now we have a base tooling for that, and we already see this decentralized autonomous companies that are emerging, and they are becoming the cornerstone of Metis ecosystem and Metis roadmap itself. So the whole business of Metis is decentralized and will be consist of these DACs that will be leading the main business lines of the business of Metis. The first one that just got emerged is the Matrix Reputation Power. So that's the decentralized autonomous company that built the reputation power that is going to be in use for the whole Metis ecosystem. The reputation power badges, it's been launched yesterday, already released into the community. So now they're going to be going around all these badges, and it will allow people. So think of these badges like a credit score, for example. So you can have them displayed all your merits, displayed all your accomplishments, all your credit scores, and that's how the people and companies can see who they can interact with or who they choose not to interact with. So this is a cornerstone of the future economy, and we plan to emerge and to help further decentralized autonomous companies that are going to be autonomous. If they're going to be building their own thing under their own, management and funding. So, the Metis founding team will not be the central authority to tell what to do. So, but the community takes over. So that is what our plan.
Thank you for that. And just to kind of clarify, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. So Metis, you then have DACs. Could you kind of just explain why someone would set up a DAC versus a DAO, or would they set up both? What is your suggestion there?
Yes, the DAO is more, indicates as a community. So the community, but the DEC is the corporation or the company that carries some business, right? So, and it's, and from definition, it has to be sustainable. It has to produce certain product or, something. It has to produce the product, and it has to be well, it's not necessarily can be kind of decentralized inside of this DAC, but it has to have some sort of form of management of the governance inside. But it can be centralized, so the decentralized autonomous company, in a sense, it could be centralized, it could be decentralized, but it has to carry on the business line, has the business model, sustainable business model, and it has to be also performing the business model for the good of the ecosystem.
Got it. Did you have anything to add to that, Natalia?
No, I think Elena covered it. I think, with DACs, I kind of think about it as the it's maybe DAO on steroids, right? So DAOs have some functionality which today traditionally is maybe a bit limited to kind of organization, which is primarily used for maybe voting, for governance structures. When with DACs, it's really built for businesses to run on. So it will have a little bit more of enhanced functionalities. Maybe it's a charity DAC, maybe it's an investment DAC. So it has to be able to support this, functionalities.
Very interesting, and it's quite easy to spin up a DAC, is that right? Just very intuitive on your website?
Yeah, so if you go to portal.metis.io, we already built kind of first version of it, and yeah, we had testers that created 7,000 DECs already. But yes, our goal right now is to build further. So we're going to be releasing next version soon. Yes, it's supposed to just take one click of a button to do that.
Excellent. Well, on that note, just kind of wrapping things up here. What's next for Metis in the future? What are some exciting things that you're looking forward to further down the roadmap?
Well, I think we talked already about some of the things that we're excited about immediately, right? So I'm in particular excited about our matrix, which is our reputation system. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Absolutely go and try it. We launched it. I think I'm excited to see our community grow this second half of the year. You know, the focus will be on, and I guess bringing Chainlink is kind of a stepping stone to that vision, right? So bringing in more established players into our network, as well as growing our homegrown solutions as well. So that will be a big focus for us in this year.
And also looking forward to decentralizing more and inviting more community members to start their own decentralized autonomous companies, so we can help with the funding for them. But we need people who actually can lead, very motivated people, and the ones who can dream and who can realize their dreams.
I'm also looking forward to seeing more of you guys building on Metis, right? And I think that's why you came here. Some of you may be developers, some of you not, but community need all of you, right? It's not just about developers. It's about people who can market, who can manage communities, who can manage human resources. So every single role that exists in the Web2 world applicable to Web3, right? And we need your talents. So I hope that all of you will join our ecosystem. We have very attractive tools for the community, for the ecosystem development. We are launching our grants program. We have our Genesee investment fund supporting the promising projects which bring unique value to our ecosystem. We also have kick-ass builder mining program that returns you a percentage of transactions transaction fees that you spend on our network. And we have the community governance process. If you go through it, we will help you with marketing and other things. So all these exciting things we put together for you, and looking forward to seeing you on Metis.
Yeah, thank you. Come over.
I think that's a great way to end it. Yeah, thank you very much, Elena and Natalia. We do have the opportunity for maybe one or two burning questions if they're out there. Please raise your hand now, and we can take that. And yeah, over here.
I know like layer 2 right now is kind of in its still growth stage, and it's kind of in your early stage. Let's say X number of years from now, the TVL on the layer 2 becomes big, much bigger than Ethereum, or it's just a much bigger ecosystem on layer 2. Do you think at that point the layer 2 just move on Ethereum and then become their own layer 1?
I think layer 2 will stay on top of Ethereum, because if they move away from Ethereum, they no longer will be layer 2s, right? Because by definition, layer 2 relies on, it's built on top of the main chain, or layer 1, right? So it relies on security and decentralization of the main layer, while helping with the scaling. So if layer 2 moves away from the Ethereum or from any other blockchain, then essentially they become in layer 1. And we need to build our own consensus mechanism and our own infrastructure that Ethereum already has. So layer 2s cannot just move away and become independent chains.
Yeah, layer 1 is essential part of the layer 2. It has to be there.
Great question. Anybody else? Question back here.
I remember reading in the roadmap about a sequencer pool. Is there a way for anybody to participate as a sequencer, like with their own node or their own validator or something like that?
Yes, because it will be decentralized, yes, there will be opportunity for everyone to actually be the node, to hold the node. It's going to be based on the staking, so you have to stake a certain amount. But yes, so the sequencers will be decentralized in the community.
Any other questions?
Quick follow-up question. Do you know how much would need to be staked? Or
I don't think at this moment I know. And I'm still like, where's Yuan? Where's Yuan? I need our CTO, so probably read the announcements.
At the moment, it's an insider information.
Definitely. Any last questions? Take one more if it's out there. And great. Okay, so one last thing. I do want to give everyone a heads up. We have Smartcon September 28th and 29th. I want to give a quick plug to that. It is a conference that Chainlink Labs is putting on with an absolutely stacked panel. Metis will be there and many others. So if you're interested in that, feel free to come talk to me afterwards or talk to Jamie or anybody else and check that out. But without further ado, I'd like to give our guests a round of applause and say thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.